You know, my favorite part of school when I was a kid? Story time. And I, frankly, am still not over the fact that story time ended. But that's okay, because MikeFire Burn has some more military stories for us. Guys, it's Paul, combat veteran, MMA fighter, YouTuber, and caffeine addict. And today we are checking out Military Stories Part 2 from MikeBurnFire. Let's get into it.
Ever consumed so much water that you puked?
Yeah.
Wow, we are cracking right into it.
Yes, I have been
Overhydrated?
overhydrated before, and it is awful.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to point this out, that puking from overhydrating is actually the best possible outcome. What happens when you actually consume too much water, and I mean gallons and gallons of water, is that you develop something called hyponatremia. And that's because your body relies on, yes, it needs water, it's 70% water, but almost every process in your body depends also on electrolytes, like salt. And so what happens is you end up with this overabundance of water, and it dilutes all the salt in your body, all the electrolytes. Remember, your heart is told to pump with electrolytes. Your sweat is able to pass out through your pores with electrolytes. So consuming salt is actually tremendously important, or salts, electrolytes. And so even when I was in airborne school, the military would issue these absolutely revolting, they tasted like fruit, like children's toothpaste, where they give them fruit flavors. Revolting, like Gatorade drink powders that we were supposed to put in our canteens, which, for those of you keeping track at home, you know that putting any powdered drink in your canteen is a really bad idea, because it's going to form a residue, and that residue will get moldy. But you had to do it, and then you drank the entire canteen, and that was supposed to prevent you from developing hyponatremia. It was supposed to give you both fluids and electrolytes.
I just came back from leave, and I had to pee in a cup to prove that I hadn't done drugs.
Oh yes, I remember this story.
Yeah.
Because you're very shy when it comes to urinating in public.
I was very shy when it comes to urinating in public. And I had to pee very badly, and all the drill sergeants were very angry that I wouldn't pee, or that I couldn't pee.
For their urinary analysis test.
For their pleasure.
Yep, this is normal. This is normal. The military, if there's one thing that it does really well, and by well I mean frighteningly, is it normalizes things that should never be normalized, i.e. your boss taking you to the bathroom and demanding to watch you pee.
They wanted to watch.
And they wanted to watch me pee. That's how they get off. So I basically ended up drinking 7-8 gallons of water.
Because they would tell you to pee in a cup, and you couldn't. So they'd force you to drink a bottle or two of water, and you couldn't still.
So I'd drink more water. And I had drank so much water that I just started throwing up uncontrollably.
So here's the thing to remember, guys. If you had gone on leave and you had gone on a massive drug-fueled bender, like putting Hunter S. Thompson to shame, this is exactly what you would do. You'd refuse to pee. You would make some sort of weird excuse about being a shy urinator, and then you would try to wait out the military. This is pretty common, and it's unfortunate that he is the exception in that he is actually a shy peer, whereas everyone else is committing some version of fraud. And actually, another one of my, this isn't my own story, this is my brother's. My brother is an engineer, and so he knows a little bit about, well, physics and chemistry and all those sort of hard sciences. And so he had a soldier who came back with his urinalysis results, who the urinalysis showed that there was that basically the makeup of the urine was incompatible with human biology. And he looks at it, and these are strange results, to be told that one of your soldiers is actually a filthy Xeno. And so, but he looks at it, he realizes in the results, it says that the pH is virtually, or the specific gravity rather, is virtually exactly 1. Like really, really, really close to water. And so, but there's a little bit of cleaning product and regular urine. And so what he thinks that this soldier did was actually dip the cup into a urinal as it flushed in order to taint the sample so it wouldn't get caught. Now, he happened to know that this soldier was actually a clean-cut, excellent soldier who probably wasn't on drugs, but he was yoked, just jacked, just like vascular, huge bodybuilder-esque. And so my brother goes, I know what you did. You played this game, you got a whole bunch of water in the cup, right? It was like 50% water, it wasn't a couple of drops. And then, so we wouldn't bust you for taking steroids. And the irony is, the Army doesn't test for steroids.
The entire time, this one drill sergeant was running around the room with a baseball bat, breaking things and screaming, "Private, if you don't pee right now, I'm gonna cave your skull in and I'm gonna fuck you to death."
Yeah, that's PTSD.
It was probably the most horrifying experience of my entire life, and I'm including getting mortared.
Oh, the things you'll see. I don't want to brag, but I do have 6th rank expert marksmanship.
Wait a minute, expert marksmanship only goes to 4 ranks.
No, it goes to 6.
What are you trying to pull?
What are you talking about? I don't know how your Army shooting works. Probably less than my effective Marine Corps shooting. It's okay. You can wallow in your mediocrity by comparison. It's fine.
Yeah, the Army just says you either have a basic rifle marksmanship qualification, something like intermediate, and then expert, and that's it.
Did you get sharpshooter?
There you go, sharpshooter. Officers never wear those awards and don't care about them.
Oh, no.
Or marksman?
Oh, no.
Marksman is the bottom.
I did not get either of those. I got expert.
I'm sorry, expert.
Yes. I don't know if you have the same marksmanship.
Yes, Mike, I got expert every time.
Did you get the pizza box?
Okay, here's what I'm going to say. When I first joined the Army, they had you shoot with iron sights. You looked down the little hole to the front sight post to the target. And then the Army said, well, we don't deploy you with these optics. So, we deploy you with optics. We don't deploy you and make you shoot iron sights. So we're going to change it. You can qualify with an optic. And to give you an idea, qualifying with an optic, especially like a 1.5 times scope, like an ACOG, it's like childlike in terms of how easy it is. Truly, truly incredible how easy it is to just knock back those targets. So being an expert shooter is not quite what it used to mean. And I say that as someone who was not a great shooter and still just like smoked it with the ACOG.
You got the pizza.
It's funny, I became a much better marksman as a civilian than I ever did in the military, mostly because the military focuses so much. Its goal is to just get you to shoot well enough and get you off the range. So if you're actually bad at shooting, you shoot more rounds than if you're good, right? And once I just sort of was able to go and have some fun, shoot different weapons, really get my shooting position down, take my time, and of course put down 200 rounds, which is, I'm going to say 200 rounds is about what you will shoot in like maybe 3 years in the military, depending on your specialty.
Pizza box, didn't you?
No, I got expert marksman.
You got the toilet seat.
Actually, in basic training, I didn't get expert marksman, but that was because when we went to the final qualifying range, I went to tap the magazine to seat all the rounds properly in it, and the bottom of the magazine exploded outwards, and the rounds ruptured all over the place.
Ooh. I assume he means that the spring scattered the rounds everywhere.
So I basically was panicking trying to single-hand load my M16 on a course that requires the use of 2 fully loaded magazines.
I was also on the firing range, and I had an issue. I had 20 rounds in a magazine, and while I got to the firing range, I noticed that there was a live round on the ground, and I thought, oh no, one of my rounds must have fallen out. So I chambered that one, and then I shot at my target. It was a little weird that all the instructors were counting our shots, and I had 21 shots on mine. I
figured out the mathematical fucking equation to solve the lack of ammo.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never heard of that. I've definitely seen when many moons ago, I've definitely seen the, the one private who cannot qualify at the range to save their lives. And simultaneous with them qualifying, at the adjacent range, one of the instructors will blow off some extra ammo and run their own marksmanship table. Do they occasionally miss and hit targets in the other lane? Perhaps. Sometimes you just need to move people along. Like in this case, actually, I think it was like a nurse going through like officer, like basic. Like they now called it Bullock A, like the officer basic combat leader skills course, which was like really important for infantry, tank, anyone who was going to command a small maneuver unit, right? But for a nurse or an admin person, like a finance officer, completely a waste of time. Just needed to shove them through it.
I think there's something wrong with this gun.
It jammed a little bit.
Yeah.
If it jams, that's what you gotta do. You gotta push forward on that. What do you call it?
The jam enhancer?
The jam enhancer? I don't think that's what it's called.
I've used that once in my entire military career, and I have never used it since that day.
I can't believe you found a use for it.
Well, my entire rifle was completely filled with sand and dust.
I've never had that experience.
Because some genius decided we were going to do a firing range in the middle of a sandstorm. Hooray!
I was cleaning my rifle one time, and I just couldn't figure out how to send the bolt home. And I told my fellow Marines sitting next to me, I said, I can't figure out how to send the bolt home. Look, I'm pushing the button, and it's not sending the bolt home. And he looked at me with this look of incredulity and said, that's because that's the magazine release button.
Wow.
So
if I had known that about you, I would have said that we can't be friends anymore.
Yeah, that's I wouldn't have ever recounted that story. So, okay. What he's describing is called the forward assist. And this is a throwback to basically, this is a testament to the fact that the military puts generals who are trained in basically having combat units maneuver and putting them in charge of acquisition and weapon design. When the first M16 was rolled out and they explained to the generals that it relied on a buffer spring to slide forward, the generals said, what happens if the spring doesn't work? And they said, well, it's a spring. Like, I guess it could not work, but a spring, by physics, is always going to have springiness. And there's 50 other parts to this weapon that will fail long before the buffer spring needs to be replaced, right? The buffer spring would need to be replaced and run out of springiness in like a century and a half, right? And so, but the generals were like, but what if it doesn't work one time? Like, as though the buffer spring is like a private who one day is going to get sick. It's just not going to happen, right? But nonetheless, they persisted and insisted on getting a forward assist installed. That's to manually assist the user in jamming the bolt forward. This is sort of like would make sense in the Springfield, the old school bolt action rifles, where you had a handle that actually you could manually cycle the bolt. Because remember, if you were a general officer in the 70s, you probably entered the Army in the bolt action era. Maybe towards the end of the bolt action era. So the idea of being able to assist the bolt forward seemed logical. But think about it. If you have no spring in your M16, then you will fire exactly one additional round for having assisted that bolt forward, because as discussed, the spring doesn't work. You'll fire one round, the bolt will fly to the back and it'll sit there, right? So the idea of adding an entire elaborate mechanism to the rifle in order to ensure that it can shoot one additional round after the spring breaks, which isn't really a breakable part, right, is insane. And the designers were like, this is insane. But the generals were in charge of the contract, and so they added that nonsense forward assist that doesn't do anything.
While I was in the military and I lived in the barracks, we had a thing that was called Better Opportunities for Single Soldiers, or BOSS.
I remember that. I remember BOSS.
It sounds like a dating meetup program.
No, but it was supposed to help create fun events for people that lived in the barracks, so they didn't just sit in the barracks and drink all the time.
They 100% sat in the barracks, but I remember this. The boss had the dumbest events. They were so dumb, but they were trying. God bless them, they tried.
It was like, oh, we're gonna have this meeting out here, and there's gonna be baseball and food and fun times, and there'll be people playing music.
I love those days. Those are so fun.
And you have to show up in civilian clothes, and also we're having a formation afterwards, which you have to be in uniform for.
That part's not so fun.
I'm literally in the middle of work. I have 15 weapons that need to be fixed right now, but I have to go to the mandatory fun day, so whoop-de-doo. So I had to go back from work to the barracks, get changed into civilian clothes, go to this meeting, and they were like, oh, there'll be food there. So I didn't eat lunch.
I know where this story's going. Was this your first mandatory fun day, or were you aware of the procedure for that?
I was aware of
I love how the face makes him look like he's dead inside.
the procedures for mandatory fun day.
If
Usually
you-
when they said there's going to be food there was food there that you didn't have to pay for.
You say this isn't your first mandatory fun day, but I think you would have learned by now to always have a can of SpaghettiOs or a packet of jerky, because you know this kind of garbage happens all the time.
So show up for the mandatory fun day. They have hot dogs.
$5 a pop.
Yeah, which are $5 a piece.
Wow. What a ripoff.
For charity, right?
No, it goes to the better opportunities for single soldiers
Yeah, it's a con.
thing, so that they can have more fun meetings like this.
Pretty much.
In the military, we call this the self-licking ice cream cone. This is a problem or program which exists only to solve the problems that it itself creates. This is the perfect example of the self-licking ice cream cone, right? And soldiers have these events. Of course, they become aggravated and frustrated and don't attend them. And then you ask the people that run the program, why don't people attend your program? And no one who runs a program is ever going to say, it's because this is a stupid idea. Right? This is their bread and butter. So instead, what they do is they tell them, well, it's because our events aren't well funded enough. And they go, I know. Why don't you raise money at your events? This is where you end up.
Charity, but it's a terrible charity.
It's a terrible charity that means that the sergeant who lives in the barracks and who runs the better opportunities for single soldiers thing can go frickin' skydiving. Whereas I'm stuck sitting at the barracks getting drunk because I don't have anything else to do. Anyway, show up there.
Yeah, oh God. If there's one, I mean, the military does so many things wrong, but one of the biggest is this idea. I remember we had a sergeant major whose philosophy was soldiers should be so exhausted at the end of the day that they don't have the energy to get in trouble, which is just the most morally bankrupt thing I've ever heard. The idea that you should work people for the sake of working them so hard that they can't get in trouble, right? But not considering the fact that soldiers also might need energy to speak to their children, right? To be decent spouses. What if they have actual things they do in their community, right? If you render them too exhausted, when I have a day where I am feeling fried, that is the day where I am most likely to do the only recreational activity that doesn't involve tremendous physical or emotional effort, and that's drink and play video games. Some of you guys joined me for those, and I actually really appreciate it.
I have to pay like $5. I don't have any money. Then I have to go to a formation. So I have to go back to the barracks, get changed into my uniform, put on my black wool hat that I have to wear in the summer in Louisiana.
Oh, yeah.
Where it feels like 120 degrees outside. I stand in formation.
Oh, the beret. Oh my God. I'm going to make a note of this. The beret deserves its own podcast episode because it's so stupid. That is going to be, I promise you, the beret will be the next podcast episode. I'm writing it down, right? Beret podcast. It's too long to do here, but it's so stupid.
Formation for 10 minutes and then pass out because my blood sugar is too low.
This isn't a unique story for you, but it is.
No,
quite
this happens to
interesting.
pretty much everybody in the military.
Yeah.
I wake up and my first sergeant and a medic are dragging me away from the formation.
Did you get the silver bullet?
No, I didn't. The medic that was dragging me back was not part of like an organized medical thing. He was just a medic that was standing in formation behind me.
Oh, you're lucky they didn't have any thermometers on hand.
Thank God. According to him, this is pretty much what happened. This is bullshit. I fell into the person in front of me and knocked him over. I wake up, my first sergeant and a medic are dragging me back, and my first sergeant is cussing me out and telling me that I have disgraced him and the entire unit because I passed out.
Yeah, I hate this. I hate this mentality of like you've the parade military is the thing I hate maybe more than anything else on planet Earth, or at least in my entire time in the military. It's second worst.
The medic is telling the first sergeant that he needs to shut the fuck up because I just passed out, probably from low blood sugar, and also because it's 120 degrees outside. He's like, "Did you eat at all today?" And I was like, "No, I didn't eat. I went to the boss meeting." And he's like, "You gotta eat before those things, man. They charge you money."
Because it wasn't his first rodeo either.
Anyway, long story short, I passed out because the army said that there was gonna be food there, and then there wasn't food there, except there was food there, but I had to pay money for it.
Like they do every year.
I mean, here's the thing. If you wanted soldiers to stay out of trouble, here's what you would do. You would give them free food. So much free food, they would be crazy not to go and steal it.
Yeah. Mandatory fun days are the worst.
Because then, even if they go and drink, at least they're well fed. At least they've pre-gamed with food, because that's safer.
Oh man, when we got sent to Africa, we got 2 guys that fell out of heat stroke the first day because they had to sleep under the freaking 120-degree sun.
Oh, that seems like a great idea.
Don't worry, we had plastic tents to sleep in that had no ventilation.
Yes.
Yeah. This is also annoying.
They have no ventilation, so they just keep all the humidity and the moisture in there.
Me and another guy had night shift, so we spent the entire night shift guarding the equipment. And then during the day, everyone else went out, and we got to sleep in the hot, hot sun.
Oh, God.
And it was already steaming hot at 9 in the morning. So I couldn't sleep. I'm naked and I'm still sweating, so you know what? Forget it. I'm just going to put my gear back on, and I'm just going to use my off time to play cards, because there's nothing else I can do. Meanwhile, the other guy stayed in the tent for about 15 minutes and started getting delusional.
That's actually a late sign of heat stroke. When you start to have cognitive changes, that's really, actually really bad.
And he starts yelling, "Hey Mike, are you feeling hot?" And of course, because I had left, he didn't hear anything.
The other sign of heat casualty is feeling like cold and clammy.
So he starts panicking, thinking maybe I had passed out. So he jumps out of his tent in nothing but his boxer shorts. He starts ripping open tents because he can't remember which one I'm staying in, yelling, "Mike! Mike, where are you? Speak to me, Mike!" And we're not too far away, so we see the ruckus. We turn our heads, and we see this guy screaming and ripping into tents.
This sounds like a vision from a meth-fueled nightmare. Like he was high on angel dust and was just ripping open tents trying to find you so that he could eat your organs.
Well, thank God he couldn't.
Okay, there used to be a military parody of The Onion that has an article that just near and dear to my heart. And it basically is a Hunter S. Thompson parody in which they say something to the effect of mind-altering drugs are superfluous when you're in a country where at any time, day or night, you could walk into a market and find a 12-year-old boy wearing eye makeup offering sexual services. Unfortunately, it sounds kind of messed up. That was Afghanistan.
Fine, I was too busy playing Caravan.
Oh, God.
I might have to edit that out. Yeah, that's going to trigger the algorithm. Yeah. Well, if you're watching this, it means, and you don't know what I'm talking about, it means that I had to edit it. And if you do, then, wow, shout out to YouTube.
God. Why were you in Africa?
I'm not endorsing that, by the way. I don't even know if that is true. It's just an article that I'm quoting.
No, for training drills.
Oh,
I wasn't deployed or anything. We're just hanging out with the Senegalese troops. And one of them kept making moves on our sergeant.
I remember you telling me about that.
You can be my third wife.
I had a lot of friends that did that. Actually, my brother did that for, literally they sent him across the world to Africa to train Ugandan troops in preparation for their deployment to Somalia, I think, doing like UN stability ops. But they literally, I'm going to say it took him at least a month to prepare for it and get everything together, at least another month to like sort of inventory and recompose himself afterward. And I think 4 days to get there, 4 days to get back, and he was there for 2 weeks. It was a huge waste of time.
Corporal Clegg, I present you with your Purple Heart. Wear it with honor.
No.
How's it going?
Now that we're talking to Corporal Clegg again, can I tell you a really quick funny story about when I was in the military?
I love quick funny stories.
Okay. We were doing like a redeployment ceremony, which is when you get back from Iraq, and they have a big ceremony that's supposed to be, as everybody in my chain of command said, well, this ceremony's for you guys. And then I kept thinking, why the hell do I got to stand in the hot Louisiana sun for 3 hours while some guy talks about shit that I know I did?
While some guy fillets you in the hot sun?
Yeah, pretty much.
Do you have to practice for those?
Yes, I had to practice.
Oh yeah.
Practice for both of them.
Because standing requires practice.
Yeah, it was about 2 weeks of practicing for ceremonies.
This is what I mean. The military that loves parades is the most self-indulgent thing of all time, right? And the parades are another self-licking ice cream cone, like these sort of things. Okay, you say, all right, well, we should do a ceremony to recognize that the unit has returned. And you go, okay, well, in order to do that, we have to practice and practice for this ceremony. And the more you practice for it, the more important it seems, the more it seems like essential. And once every other unit has these well-practiced ceremonies, you don't want yours to look terrible, so yours has to be well-practiced, but then other units see you working so hard, and they do their own. That's the self-licking ice cream cone.
Anyway, at one of them, whenever we would practice, instead of the sergeant major giving his whole long-winded speech about everything that I know we did in country, he would just stand up there and walk up to the microphone and say remarks complete and go and sit down.
Because he didn't have to give the whole speech for the practice.
They practiced it at home, in the comfort of their house, in the comfort of air conditioning. Unlike me, because I'm a lowly soldier. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. During the actual deployment ceremony, he had said remarks complete so many times when he was called on stage that during the actual ceremony, he got up there, got behind the microphone, and said remarks complete, and then went and sat down. And then I could see him sitting on stage, and 2 seconds after he sat down, he realized what he did and just went, oh, fuck.
You didn't hear it. You saw him mouth it, though.
He didn't actually
that's
give the
great.
speech he was supposed to give, and they just kept going. That was the best redeployment ceremony ever
That's
because it was
pretty
about
great.
an hour shorter than it needed to be. Anyway,
So there was no fallout from that?
no, not really.
No, it's just a thing that
It's
happened.
the sergeant major who's gonna yell at him.
Right. Here's the. I mean, it both bothers me and is absolutely true that, you know, at the end of the day, the sergeant major, right? You know what happened after that? His battalion commander, right? Who probably he referred to as Joe or was just like, good one, Joe. And the sergeant major goes, yeah, I really screwed that one up. And he goes, kind of. And that was it. That was the end of it. Right, and that's one of the things that sort of bothers me is that you at a certain level, we've decided that we can treat people like adults in the military, right? But if you're a private, you have to get treated like the dumbest one on earth and the most irresponsible human being to ever live, which I sort of understand. You're 19, but like we let 19-year-olds go to college, and that's not even a full-time job, right? And they have no supervision, and we just cut them loose, right? So the idea that privates cannot be allowed to not be in the hot sun is completely and utterly insane. So anyway, guys, thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the Military Stories compilation part 2. And thank you again to all my channel members, right? If you want to hang out with us, come join us in the Discord. And until next time, man, I will see you guys later.